today?
Welcome
So
back.
yeah. So before we get started, got to do the show notes. Like you said, like we've been saying before, we are part of Happy Dragons. Like I said, it's an ethical platform where they vet out all the breeders and the experts, so you're getting quality instead of getting that, where you might get some quantity. All their said all their even all their equipment that they have on there, all their merchandise, everything's been vetted and is good people. So if you want to be part of the Discord or join the Happy Dragons Plus program, go ahead and reach out to us. You can DM myself or you can DM Anthony, and we could go ahead and put you onto that. Uh, Other than that, so today we got Mr. Kris Hoffmann. We're going to talk some cyrtodactylus zebraicus, aka the Pegu forest gecko, aka the Thai bento gecko, aka the oscillated forest gecko. Like there's so many damn names with this gecko. It's crazy.
Or bow-fingered
So
gecko too.
bowfinger, yeah, Thai bowfinger gecko, yeah, man, dude. There's so many names. It's crazy. So
hmm
before we like even get into that, man, like why
hmm
don't you tell us how you got into this reptile journey?
Oh man, just as a little kid, going outside and catching animals and stuff like that. I grew up in California, so I grew up in the '80s, so my parents were very much like, go outside. So
Right?
just
Yeah.
doing that. Probably I had a couple geckos and a couple snakes when I was younger. My biggest experience was probably um, in my later early 20 years when I was working next to a pet store, started going in there on my lunch break and stuff like that, and just got zoned in on, even more. It just like sparked this whole thing. Um, Eventually that store ended up getting bought out and turned into a humongous reptile store. I mean, we had everything. We had big black throat monitors, snakes, frogs, geckos. I mean, you name it, we had it. Even a little bit of fish. So I kind of became the gecko guy there. I was the one that was always catching the loose geckos and stuff like that. And then yeah, I got I got a couple young Philsuma standing eye. Were the first ones that I kind of dove into. Um, got some leopard geckos, and it just kind of went from there. Working there, I had the opportunities of getting, wild caught leaf tail geckos, the Fantasticus and Fimbriatus and
You got them
Lineatus
under
and
cheap, huh?
oh
Got them
yeah,
under
we were getting in, panther chameleon geckos for like $100, beautiful
yeah.
male wild caughts. And so I had access to all that. So it just kind of it went crazy. I got into a little bit of I started keeping a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then the geckos just man, they stuck with me.
Yeah.
The wide varieties that are out there, from the tropical species to the desert species. I mean, it kind of covers just so many areas, and it was like I was finding new species of geckos all the time, So, and this was like late '90s, so there was the internet wasn't there. It was definitely a lot of just what we had access to at the pet store and going to some of the pet expos and stuff like that. And reading Reptile magazine, you know what I mean? Like that was our source of information back then. So,
Is that shop still
um,
there?
it's not. No, they got bought out and kind of moved around. Uh, but again, this was like 98, 99, somewhere around there. So it was an old biology teacher that had snakes in his garage that ended up retiring and opening the store, and then just kind of we just expanded. I mean, there was no other options of especially for the variety that we carried in the store at that time. So
Nice.
Very cool. Great
yeah,
experiences, man. Awesome, awesome experience. That
yeah,
you have that exposure as a kid. You get to, see many sides of the hobby. The business side, the
oh yeah.
trading side, the keeping side. You get to see it all. Importing. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and I learned a lot from them. They were, obviously a little older than I was. one of the girls was heavy into like monitors and bearded dragons, so I learned a lot about Argus monitors and Savannah monitors and black throats and things like that. Um,
Favorites. Yeah.
and then even just dealing with the snakes, we had white lip pythons and retics
Oh shit.
and you know Brazilian rainbow boas. I mean, we had a wide variety. I mean, the store was it was probably I would say pushing 1,000, if not more, animals in that store.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you don't see
Nice
that.
size shop.
No, no, you don't. I mean, don't not on a retail level. There's a few of them that are out there nowadays, but at the time it was just like East Bay Bavarian was really the only big, big well-known big dog. At least for me in California, at that time. So
And you're in North Carolina now, right?
yeah, I'm in Charlotte.
Okay. How's
Yeah,
the reptile scene out there, man?
man, it's crazy. There's there's so many shows that come to North Carolina. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, I met, quite a few people from being a little more involved in the scene out here too. I started doing shows in 2020, and um, I was going to shows, pretty much on and off my whole life, but just really got in. Met a few people. I had a girl who was doing like mostly New Caledonian species, mostly like Leachianus. She's a big Leachianus person. And she just kept bugging me like, "Hey, get a table with me, share a table with me, share a table with me." So that was kind of how I got into that. But there's a lot. There's a lot of. It seems like there's a lot out here. Of
Have you
course, I've
been
lived here
to
for a while,
Brett and
so
Gabby's Flora Fauna, their new shop down there?
I haven't been there to their shop. No, but I know them. I've dealt with them quite a few when they used to do more shows a
Yeah.
couple years ago. I've
Yeah,
dealt
they're
with them.
awesome. Great people. Great people.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic.
I
So
I see their shop. I obviously haven't been to their shop either. I was just wondering. I mean, I haven't really met anybody. I haven't gotten a good chance to speak to anybody that's been there. I've heard, or seen people posting that it's like an awesome shop.
mhm.
And they have their little terrarium bar where you can bring the kids and they can build their own enclosure type thing. But
Yeah.
curious to see what it's like from a gecko.
Yeah, I mean, they've been open for a couple years now. I just,
And they're
they're not,
yeah.
they're a couple hours from me too. So,
Oh, all right.
they're not like right around the corner or anything. But again, I've dealt with them. They're great people. They bought stuff from like gargoyles for me and stuff. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
For their
It's nice
shop,
to see them at
they
your-
bought
shows.
you for their shop.
I'm sorry.
Did they buy them from you to like sell in their shop or like their own personal collection?
This was before the shop. This was back when they were doing shows. So I think it was just for, probably for breeding,
Yeah.
future bloodline breeding purposes.
It's got to be pretty flattering, they're pretty they're heavyweights, the
Yeah, I
crest.
mean, I sold a handful of, young, ready to breed females to Josh's frogs. So, which I thought was really cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Sold them like eight or 10. I mean, it's been a few years, but it was kind of an honor for them being a big dog for somebody like that to reach out to me for gargoyles.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and
That's a little highlight right
I
there.
got good feedback from them. They said they did. They test everything that comes in their shops, and he said that I was one of the first ones they've actually gotten animals from where the fecals all came back nice. So, so that was a cool thing too.
Very cool.
Makes me feel good, like my husband's tree's straight. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
So how many what does your collection look like right now?
um, so I started getting into. I got in it heavy, like when I got really jumped back into it. Because I kind of took a hiatus. I was always keeping things, but nothing really to the extreme that I have now. Obviously, I fell in love with gargoyles, so that was one of kind of my first things. I was going to shows and buying little baby gargs and raising them up and started. That was my main production for quite a few years. I've been breeding them since probably 2010 or so, um, 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. That was before the big boom in the gargoyle world. So I was able to kind of produce some babies and turn around and sell some babies, and also then turn buy some new stuff. So my bigger projects for the gargoyles, I have a few crested geckos. I'm not heavy into the cresties like everybody and breeding for anything specific. I just have a few pairs that I have just to have something on the table at the shows. Um, I've been doing Philsuma standing eye, the standings day geckos for a long time. The pictures there are the Halmahera geckos.
What's this
I've
again?
been doing the
What
home.
they are?
Those are the Halmahera geckos.
Very cool.
So I've been doing those for a long time, probably shoot 13, 14 years or so.
Really?
Wow.
Another one of those that just there wasn't anything on them.
You
The
still working with
information.
them?
Yeah.
Oh,
Those are my
we gotta
most of
talk.
my cages behind me are like the breeder cages.
We got to talk. I just got my first, well, a few months ago now, but I got a
Yeah.
captive female, man, and I love her, but I haven't really ran into anybody that's openly like working with them or at least like advertising it, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, at this point, I started the Halmahera Facebook page when I got into them because there was no info. So I was just like, let me put this Facebook page out there, see if anybody else has them, just to get some like other keepers and breeders to help each other.
Yeah.
And now it's like to the point I mean, if you look on the page, there's a lot of people that buy from me. I can't even keep babies longer than like 6 to 8 months. Like
That's awesome.
I very rarely even post them for sale. People just reach out to me because they know that I have home babies all the time. So,
I see more people
um,
inquiring to buy them than I do selling, you know, people selling them.
yeah,
And
yeah. And I've actually turned quite a few people onto him. I have a super tame one that I bring to the shows. He just pretty much just chills on the light the whole show, and people can touch him and pet him and hold him, and he doesn't, he's not flighty because they're fast and flighty like a day gecko.
I was going to ask you, you know, because I had this whole misconception too, and I know we're going to go into Halmaheras or anything, but when I got mine, I knew nothing about it. I got it in a trade. Somebody had a crested gecko, and they sent me a picture. I'm like, what is this thing? Would you trade me for a crested gecko? I'm like, oh, it's a Halmahera gecko. Fuck yeah, hell yeah. Let me get it. So he was telling me it was a captive baby, but I knew nothing about them. So when I worked with, he was like, oh, I haven't held them because I hear they're fast. I'm like, what the hell is the point of having a thing? So I open the container up, I take her out. She doesn't go anywhere. She eats out of my hand.
That's awesome.
Like, I mean, it's like I got videos on my Instagram, dude. Like, she's the coolest, probably one of the most chillest geckos. It's not a Chihuahua in my whole collection.
Yeah, and a lot of people mistake them for like when they see them up on the light, they think it's like a Chihuahua or something because it has that, they're known as the poor man's lychee, but so they have that cyrtodactylus New Caledonian look to them.
They do.
But they're fun. They're a blast. They're flighty and their skin can slough off, so it turns people off on them. There's still a lot imported, so that's people are hesitant because they see a $40 one on people's table, and then they see me selling them for $100+ for a baby, and so then they go back to that $40 table, and a lot of people I've talked to that end up buying from me are like, yeah, I bought a wild caught and it lasted like a month, so. They definitely are better to start as babies than captive born. I mean, like most things. I have a few that are long-term captives that have done well. I have a couple of adults that I've had for 12, 13 years, and they were adults when I got them. So,
That's awesome.
the next 3 to 5 years for them to get full grown. So, they're pushing, 17, 18 years probably in age. So, but yeah, besides that, I got some Madagascar geckos, the Blazodactylus bovini, the Anton Gelensis. Like I'm probably messing that name up a lot. Let's see. I have some morning geckos like everybody. Like I said, quite a few standing eye pairs. I have like 5 standing eye pairs, tons of babies. Just got into some Chihuahua the past like 2 years. So I have some Chihuahuas. And some of the neon day geckos, the Clemeri. Just got some of those and raised them up from babies. So,
Nice.
And then of course I have a few of the I have the cyrtodactylus zebraicus, or used to be known as Pegensis zebraicus, as well as the cyrtodactylus irregularis, which is not really seen very often. Similar size to the Pegensis or zebraicus. And then I have some Bawang lingensis cave geckos.
Nice.
So a little bit of a variety. Nothing. Everything that I have is pretty much tropical. I don't really work with any desert species. And then of course my tokays. I have
Very
quite a
nice.
few of the tokays.
What's that?
Yeah, that picture there is the cyrtodactylus pigensis, which is a decent sized gecko.
I
Those
think this
guys
is
are
Patellus.
Puchillus. Yes. Sorry,
Yeah.
That's
Puchillus.
a cool looking gecko.
Yeah, they're cool. Their eyes are really pretty. Like I said, they're standoffish too. They'll turn at you and wag their tail and kind of like similar somewhat to a tokay.
Giving those
Where are
tokay
they from?
vibes.
They're from Southeast Asia, like all the bento species are.
Oh, they
I'm
are.
not sure their exact locale, but
Yeah. So, as I we're here to talk about cyrtodactylus zebraicus. So,
yep,
where did they come from? Like, do you know
Thailand.
Thailand?
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly if there's a specific, area of Thailand.
I think
Obviously,
they cover a lot. Like,
yeah, more than
I,
likely.
yeah, I've done some INAT stuff and
Hmm.
start looking at their distribution. They're pretty spread out. Because
Yeah.
I was like, all right, because I was trying to get temps and stuff, right? So I was like,
Hmm.
all right, they're at like one of the national parks over there. So I was like, all right, cool, boom, put that on my weather app so I can keep track of like
Yep.
their the weather, the rainfall, humidity, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
what's
So
like
they're found in a cooler climate. They're a cooler climate species. I mean, they're really, really similar to like keeping a cave gecko.
mhm.
Higher
So what?
humidity levels, cooler
Yeah.
temperatures.
Okay. So what kind of temps are you trying to aim for um in like humidity levels and stuff like that?
So I don't really, I've never really been one to actually like put humidity gauges in any of my stuff. I just kind of go by feel of soil and regular mistings, so that they have ways to drink. You can probably more than likely offer them a water dish. I never have. It was especially with them being in, eating insects and stuff. You're gonna lose half your crickets in a water dish if you put it in there. Um, I do a
Yeah.
lot of plants, a lot of plants, either pothos or even just, fake plants. And that's a good way for them to get their drinking water. And I miss the sides, but I give it I wouldn't say a full dry out period. I give it a slight dry out period, um,
Mhm.
just to keep those humidity levels higher, keep them in a couple inches of substrate and
Okay.
lots of cork stacked on top of each other. They like to snuggle under little tight spots under the cork.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like they'll like if I lay some cork real flat, they'll dig
Hmm.
under it and just lay right up in there. Uh,
Hmm.
do you know? Are they still importing these?
That I don't think so. I haven't seen anything with importing. I've seen a lot of the other Cyrtodactylus imported,
Yeah, yeah.
but I haven't run across or heard of anybody bringing those in.
Okay.
So a couple of people that I've dealt with that do keep these guys were pretty diligent about what bloodlines, who they came from, those types of things. So
Okay.
I'm guessing that they're probably not seen very often. And again, there's only a handful of people that were really like working with them a few years ago.
Yeah.
So I would imagine probably not. But who's to say they don't sneak in here and there.
Yeah.
Facts.
Again, I don't deal with a lot of importers either, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not
Okay.
an area I'm super super familiar with.
Yeah. Because I was wondering, like maybe like the big time retailers like Triple L or Underground. I know they usually have some kind of Cyrtodactylus, and like coming from
Yeah,
Thailand too, you would think
yeah,
like especially because you get tokays and stuff too, so you'd figure they probably collect some of those as well.
yeah, and the skunk geckos and all the stuff from
Yeah.
all over that general area.
Yeah.
So again, I see a lot of um, the Pucellus come in, a lot of the Aryan Giantus come in.
Yeah.
Those tend to be the two popular ones that I see come in. I know there's a couple others that I've
I
seen
know
people
I've
get.
seen like Cyrtodactylus Eloc. I've seen those come
Oh,
in
the
every
Eloc,
now and
yeah,
then.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Eloc will still come in here and there.
Yeah.
And then there's
What's
another
another
one,
one?
the cone
It starts with a
sabin.
C. Yeah, it
Yeah,
starts with a
yeah,
C. I know what you're talking
yeah,
about. That's the one. I remember that's the one we talked to David Kelly about, and he was like, "Yeah, I got real good at killing them things because they'd always die out on them." I'm like, "God damn."
yeah. And especially probably coming in, wild
Yeah,
caught. It's
coming in
like who
wild caught.
knows?
Yeah,
It's like who knows how long they were sitting before they even got shipped,
yeah,
and
exactly.
then travel time, and it's like they're probably from when they got plucked out of the wild to when they get in the states. You're probably talking about a month or two, minimum.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know Jim McDermott. He's out of Chicago. He runs the Facebook Cyrtodactylus
That's my
page.
guy.
Yeah, he's super informative. He's actually the one I bought. I bought my first one, zebraicus from him.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's a cool dude. I mean, he's always willing to talk to you and answer questions.
Oh
And
yeah. Especially if it's
he's
about
kept quite a few of them.
cyrtodactylus,
Oh
he
yeah,
will
yeah,
throw you all kinds of information. You could ask
yeah,
one question, but he's gonna give you answers for everything else you might think of. It's
yeah.
funny
He's
as
a
hell.
good
I'm like,
dude.
dude, yeah. I've
Yeah,
been trying to get
he's
him
worked
on
with
for a
quite a.
while.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. He's like, man, I'm just too busy. I'm just too busy. I'm like, dude, come on, bro. Let's go.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of the probably the, as far as I know, he's worked with probably the most species of Cyrtodactylus out of anybody.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Keep
he's
telling
always my
people.
go-to when I have
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
And
He likes to.
Elizabeth Freer, out of, I think she's in
Yeah.
Oregon. Yeah, she
Yeah.
works with
I talked to
the
her as well.
zebraicus too. Yeah,
Yeah. I talked to her as well about some stuff. Um,
yeah,
There's about 300
so,
species or so.
yep.
yeah, that they know of.
Right.
Yeah. And like I said, they just discovered one like a few years back. So,
Yeah.
just some random shit like where it is like, oh, gecko dropped on the backpack. Oh, looks different from these ones. Boom, new species. It's
Well,
like,
and again,
God
even the
damn.
zebraicus, it was considered a subspecies of Apigensis for the longest time until a few years
Yep.
ago when they
Yeah.
actually looked into it a little more and realized it wasn't related to the Apigensis at all.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ant.
No, I was said that was the one I think I was just reading about. There was one that was called something Cyrtodactylus, and they reclassified it or found out it was like a totally different species. I think that was 2022 or something. But then again, there's
Yeah,
so
I
many.
think.
What the hell do I?
Yeah, from from when I was talking to people at the beginning, a lot of people said the Apigensis didn't have the stripes down the sides like the zebraicus does, and then the zebraicus was a subspecies which had stripes going down the side of the bellies.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess they've now changed that to its own.
What
So
Yeah.
what turned you on to the Cyrtodactylus? What made you say, "Hey, this is a cool, species of geckos here. Like I want to work with these." Was it anything in particular, or was it just kind
it
of like,
was. It was actually. It's funny because I was flipping through YouTube and saw this saw this video. It was like it's like a short little video, maybe like a minute or so long, and I'm sure you guys have probably seen it. And it was this damn lizard gecko chirping, and it sounded like a freaking bird.
Yeah.
And
You
that
talking
was
about
the
the
first time.
zebraicus one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, what in the hell? How is that little tiny little thing making that loud old noise?
Yeah. I can
So
hear
that,
that thing from in my bedroom, and it's all the way out in
yeah,
the kitchen.
yep, yeah, they're loud for
And
a small, small
yeah,
little gecko.
I'm
So that
timing it
got
now
me,
where it's like there are like 14-second intervals, and it
yeah,
goes for like 3 or 4 times.
3 to 4,
It's
yeah,
almost like yeah, it almost feels like a radar beep when they do it.
yeah,
And it's like boom, 1, 2, 3. I'm just counting and shit. Boom,
yeah. I
14.
did the
Boom,
same
hits it
thing.
again.
Yeah, and all the males are a little bit different. Some of the males will go a little bit longer in between.
Yeah,
Um, but you're right. It's about that 14, 15, 16 to 20, maybe 20-second in
yeah,
between each
yeah,
one. But it's just like the best way for me to explain it is it sounds like a bird chirping. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, and it's crazy because it's loud. Like it is
Oh
loud.
yeah, trust me. And then I got these cyrtodactylus nebulosus.
Hmm.
And so the male, he instead of like having like a 14-second interval, his shit is like rapid fire.
Oh,
Like
really?
well, yeah, like there are certain rhythms he does. And then like it's like, all right, what rhythm is that one now? Like when I'm listening to him, like sometimes he throws me off. Like it'll go rapid, 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 then stop. little rapid, little bit of rapid, little bit of rapid, stop, rapid, 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 and then like at the end, just machine guns that shit real quick. It's like, and like usually his stuff goes for about 30 seconds. He'll go, and
Okay.
then he's like done for a little bit. Do the
Yeah, I think
females
I,
make
I think I
noise?
know which ones you're talking about. You don't see them very often though. That's for
Yeah, they're
sure.
really small. They're like maybe like 3 inches,
Yeah,
full grown adult. Yeah.
yeah,
So
and they're
do the
banded,
females
right?
make noise? Yeah, yeah, yeah. They call
Yeah,
them like the
okay.
clouded Indian gecko.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about then.
Yeah.
I've read that people have said that they have the females making noise. I've never heard it. I had at one point a couple males, so it's like every time you even get close to them or close to that, like, they hear you come and they stop. So it's you never actually get to like catch them chirping, per se.
Yeah, yeah. That's what happens with me. Like every
Yeah.
time I'm like, all right, I'm about to go record it real quick, and he
Yeah.
just stops. It's like not doing it anymore. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like I need
And
some
they're so
content here.
unpredictable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
I have a male that's like he'll chirp, 2, 3 times in one night, and then I won't hear him for shoot like 3 weeks. So it's really random. I haven't figured out like a pattern to them at all.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
They tend
So
to do it more in like the early, like the evenings and like really early in the morning as opposed to like dead middle of the night, um,
yeah.
like
I
dusk
think
and dawn-ish time.
like I said, like, yeah, usually like when all the lights go out, like maybe like an hour after, the male will start
Hmm.
chirping. And
Hmm.
then my girl said, like, cause she does like Amazon, like gets up like 2 in the morning type shit and goes deliver packages. So when
Hmm.
she's getting ready, she'll hear him go off again. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, well, fuck, at least I don't hear that shit. I'll be
Hmm.
knocked the hell out. So
Yeah, yeah, they're fun though. But that's kind of that seeing that video was just like, holy crap. Um,
yeah,
and then that just rabbit holed into all the other cyrtodactylus species that I wasn't even aware of. I'd seen eloc before, but other than that, you know there was not really a major interest or a knowledge on a lot of the cyrtodactylus species.
yeah. Oh, trust me, I'm just like you with that one. I went down the cyrtodactyls rabbit hole. I got like
Hmm.
3 different species now. I got,
Hmm.
like I said, I got zebraicus, nebulosus, and triatus.
Okay.
So, and the only triatus don't even make noise unless you like mess with them. Like if I try
Yeah.
to scoot them out the way, so I'm trying to put like cork bark back down, and I don't want to like smash you. Like they'll squeal like a pig.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the most comical shit ever. Like
I have the
these little,
Geckowella Dicensis or Dicensis.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Decana,
I have a
or
couple
yeah,
of those, and they're the same way. Like, I've never heard them make any noise, but man, you touch them, it squeals like a pig.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like I just love like all the different noises that they make. It's so crazy to hear these geckos make noises.
Yeah, I love vocal geckos. It just
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
it adds to
And
the ambiance of your gecko room too.
yeah, and
We all
it
already
just
got the
shows
crickets
different ways
going.
of like communicating, right? It's just different ways of
Yeah,
them communicating, which I think is really cool. You know?
yeah, yeah.
So
That's why I enjoy the tokays. You hear the males just going crazy, barking every once in a while,
yeah,
and it's just like a treat because it's so unpredictable and it's not every day. And so
yeah,
when you do hear it, it just
definitely.
puts a smile on your face. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. So so what's like the ideal enclosure setup for them?
So what I typically do, especially with the smaller species like that, I use a lot of just tubs, to be honest.
Hmm.
It's easier to maintain humidity levels. It's easier to, you go and you do bioactive stuff, and then you're digging up the whole cage every time trying to find eggs. Um,
Yeah,
you're replanting your plants. It just becomes this crazy mess. So I do a lot of just like cocoa fiber, like the cocoa, the bricks of cocoa fiber,
yeah,
um, or some sort of a reptile dirt that's mixed. I've been using the Zilla stuff lately that I really like a lot. Um, and so I'll just use that. You do like a couple inch layer, and then I just stack a lot of cork bark pieces, flat, like kind of flat, domey cork bark pieces on top of each other, give them plenty of like little hides to go under. It's also a spot for them to, keep their humidity levels a little higher too. Um, I've never had any issues with them, shedding or anything like that. You can put some, I'll throw some like little vines in there too. They will climb a little bit, but they seem to be a little more terrestrial than most of the other cyrtodactylus species. Um, as far as them specifically, but they will climb on the vines. I don't think that they're a big boreal type of a gecko that some of the other
Yeah, yeah,
cyrtodactylus species can be. So they're pretty terrestrial. So again, I keep it pretty basic. Like I said, lots of small cork pieces on top of each other, and maybe a fake plant or two, and every once in a while I might put some pothos or something in there. That's easy to remove and stick back in there. It helps a little bit too when you're finding eggs by using like the clear tubs, because you could just flip up
yeah.
the tubs and look on the bottom. Um, that's a trick I've been doing with some of my gecko species, especially like my gargoyles. I don't have to dig through the whole cage for the gargoyle eggs because they're all the way at the bottom of the tank, so or the tubs.
Are
So
you keeping these things in pairs or trios, or how are you?
so I've kept them in trios with no issues. I've even actually had babies hatch out in the cages and they left the babies alone.
Cool. Very
That's
cool.
what
Some
I'm actually
just
planning on doing too. Like
yeah.
I got, because I mean, I don't, it's not. Is it bio? Yeah, I do. I got springtails and isopods in that thing too. But no, I
That's what
got
I
this
would
one
watch for.
planted out. Yeah. Because I bought this leap habitat because I was planning on putting was it a Saltoria salabrosis in there, one of them
Hmm.
big massive leaf tails. But
Hmm.
I ended up having my buddy. I was like, yo, hold on to that breeding loan. Go do what you got to do. So I
Hmm.
had an extra one. I was like, all right, so I'm gonna just put them in there, and I think it's like a 30-gallon thing or whatever. But yeah, no, I threw like mother's fern in there, some a rattlesnake plant. But I put like cork in there where I can like almost let them go all the way down to the bottom if they need to like
Yeah.
get really cool, and then if they need to come
Yeah.
up to get a little to regulate their temperature, boom, and they can leave again. So,
Hmm.
but I'm planning on just like letting them lay their eggs in there, and because I don't want to break that shit up. I don't want to. I was
Yeah.
like, whatever. If babies hatch, cool, grab them, put them in somewhere else. But
Yep. And I
yeah,
and I
it's
found babies in there, and the babies. I didn't. I've talked to a few people that have kept even the babies in with the parents, and they've raised the babies in with the
okay.
parents,
Cool, man. I think that's
um,
so awesome.
without them being cannibalistic. Yeah. So I mean,
Okay,
there's very
that's nice.
few gecko species that do that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
um, I usually pulled my eggs. That just happened to be a time that I missed eggs, and
yeah.
just popped it open, and there was two little babies running around. Which I, in turn, I pulled them just to keep them separate, monitor them a little bit better.
I've heard people being
Yeah, yeah.
successful with cave geckos too, letting them hatch in the enclosures.
Yeah, and again, I think a little bit it has to do with it's a slower moving, really kind of a secretive gecko. They're not high
Yeah.
active and running around and crazy. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they left them alone,
Do these
let
guys
let
have
babies alone.
toe pads? Can they climb glass, or do they have just are they just a like a
Not on the zebraicus, no.
yeah,
They just have like the little bent
yeah,
toes to them. So they definitely need something with some texture to it. Those bendy vines work really well because it gives them an
Yeah, yeah.
opportunity, and their
Yeah,
size is
that's
like
what I have in
ideal
mind.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
their size is just perfect for those things.
Like what size bins are you using for like when you did your trio and your one to ones?
I don't know the exact size, but just shoot, like a little bit bigger than like shoebox. The ones that are a little more square than shoebox size tubs.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
12
got a few
quart.
of those off to the
Yeah,
side.
and again, I stacked so much cork in there on top of each other that they had, multiple layers. So there's no wasted airspace.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a firm believer in quite a few species. Like I think people decorate their cages more to what they think looks cool, and there's so much
Oh,
airspace in your cage, and it's just the gecko they can't crawl on air. You know what I mean? So it's like slam it filled with cork bark or
Yeah, there
six.
you
I
go.
mean, something.
Yep.
So, especially
No,
in
that's what I
breeding,
do.
you need those separations. You need that visual barriers with each other.
Yeah.
It's like, if you lived with your girlfriend or your wife and you only had one bedroom that you lived in, like you would go crazy. You have to have that.
That's why we got man caves.
Yeah, exactly. So and it gives the girls an opportunity to get away from breeding too. And with, that's with any species. Like the girls got to be able to get away from the boys just hounding them all the time. So they have to be able to get in, little crevices and things like that. That allows them that kind of space to feel secure and leave the boys from mounting them constantly.
For sure.
Yeah. So,
But be careful with the isopods in your cages too, as you pull
yeah.
that up.
Oh,
Um,
right.
I've lost eggs quite a few times from
Yeah.
not
Oh,
realizing
yeah.
that there
Just
was a few dwarf whites in there, and the dwarf whites
yeah.
just go straight
Like
to the eggs.
yeah. These I don't know. Like these ice. Well, the ones that I got right now don't want protein at all. Like it's mind-boggling to me right now.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I forgot what they are. They're not the powder oranges, but they are an orange one. But they don't take. All they want is a damn that wood. Like I give them a calcium block, and I
Hmm.
give them the that morning wood stuff from
Hmm.
Rapashi. Yeah,
Hmm.
but if I put like what is it, like freeze dried shrimp or whatever, or any like eggs or other calcium, they're like, nah, get out of here with that shit. They don't want it. So it's like,
Yeah, the eggs are hit and miss. Depends on from what
yeah,
I've cooked a few of the
I think it's
isopod
depending on
species.
yeah, depending on the isospot species, is definitely something
Yeah.
people need to know. Remember,
Yeah,
I
because
used to
like
have
dairy cows, for instance, like the dairy cows, you could throw a pinky in there and the pinky will be gone like the next day.
yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
that's
it's
what I've
crazy.
heard. Yeah,
It's
those, and I
crazy.
think I've heard like giant canyons as well.
Yeah, the canyons as well.
Yeah, but
Do you
yeah,
keep
like
isopods? I mean, like, do you breed
Um,
them or keep colonies?
I have a few. I have mostly the Panda Kings.
Those are my
They're
favorite.
freaking so awesome and they do really well and they actually they've been doing really good. I threw them in my Clemmerite cage, which is the Phelsoma species, which is kept on the warmer end, and they've done really well, which is great because most of them don't do well at warmer temperatures.
Mm.
But those, I have a few dwarf whites just kind of mixed in a few different cages, and the powder blues are the
Nice.
ones that I have right now.
Very
And the
cool.
powder blues, again, they're like in the bottom of my, like my Blazodactylus, my single female Blazodactylus,
how
and
are your Blazodactylus? Because I'm about to get some.
um, they're crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
They're crazy. The I have the bovini, which are the really big ones. They're the
yeah, yeah,
size close to like a tokay. Um, they're fast, but they're not. When you do grab them, they're not super. They're not trying to turn around and like bite you and go crazy. So they are, they are grabbable. They're just a little squirmy, but they're not super super flighty. Once you kind of
yeah.
get them out and they realize you're not trying to murder them. Uh, but they're cool. The females are a little more aggressive with the bovini than the males are towards the females. Like the females have
Okay.
bit. I have two pair that are together right now, and the males have lost the tips of their tails numerous times. It's like it's constant.
Damn.
As soon as it grows back, she bites it off again. It's like,
Those are the same ones, right, Jay? The bovini, the
No,
same.
I'm getting those Saklava or
oh,
Sala.
Sakaba.
Yeah, Saklava. Yeah, I'm getting those.
Or
Uh
Is it Sakalava? Sakalava? Yeah, my friend
yeah,
has those.
Saklava. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
getting those for Nate.
he's got a ton of those.
Yeah.
Oh, from
Yeah. I
Nate
mean,
Berry?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say Nate's down in the Carolinas somewhere, I
Yeah,
believe.
he's in Raleigh, so he's a couple hours, but he actually vends with us. He shares tables with us in the Charlotte show.
Nice,
Mhm.
good guy.
So yeah, him and Rose's Racks from Atlanta. Um, Norman's Gecko Garage. He's local here in Charlotte. And that's probably where Nate got his was from Chris at Norman's Gecko Garage. He has a ton of them
Mhm.
right now. The Sakalava.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Um, and then Joe from Actual Wild Side. We all kind of get a group of 8 tables together for the Charlotte
Nice.
show.
Oh, that's cool.
That's nice, man.
Yeah.
I
Gecko shop.
wish I could have some folks like that over here where we could all just share a table and just bullshit.
Oh, it's awesome. Plus, like if you need to walk away from your table to go to the bathroom, like you're not, it's
Yeah,
like, hey, I'm gonna step away for a
exactly.
second.
Yeah,
And it's we all keep a couple same species of geckos, but we all kind of have our own at the same time. So
yeah.
you're getting a wide variety. Joe from Asheville Wildside, he does mostly insects and stuff like that. So um,
Cool.
he has a few geckos and a few snakes, but he does a lot of
Bugs.
mantises and spiders and crazy stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really
So
cool.
we have a
Yeah, I
we
like
have a good
mantises.
variety on our little 8 tables right there at every Charlotte show.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I've
So,
heard. I was talking to what was her name, Elizabeth. So she was
mhm.
kind of go over that supplement stuff. Are you doing that same type of schedule supplement where it's like nothing on Monday, you do the calcium with D3 on Wednesday, and then a multivitamin on like Friday?
So I don't do any kind of like system. To be honest, for years and years and years, I dust every cricket feeding,
Okay.
every single one. Um,
And
the only
they've
reason,
been producing for you just fine without
yeah,
like
yeah.
okay,
And some
sweet.
people say to use the cuttle bone and all that stuff, and I tried the cuttle bone.
I have that
Um,
too in there as well.
yeah, I didn't have as much of a response as some of the other people did, so
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
it's
don't have
if I
any
just didn't leave
response.
it long enough or give it a long enough
It's
trial period.
yeah, it's been sitting in there for like the past few weeks, and nothing's happening. They haven't touched it. It's like whatever. They're getting their crickets with the
Mhm.
the supplements on them. So I was like, all right,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, I'll do a multivitamin, just kind of randomly. I don't do it by any means like once a week or anything like that. Probably every couple weeks I'll do the multi. But like I said, I do calcium with D3 on
Yeah.
every cricket feeding with all of my animals. I've always done that, and um, that's just how I roll. I know some people are like, "Oh, don't do it every feeding." I've never had any issues. I mean, a lot of the times, if you think about it too, the crickets that get in there, they're only going to eat a couple right off the bat. And within 10 minutes, those crickets have pretty much pulled or shaken almost all of that calcium dust off their bodies, anyways.
Absolutely.
So even on the straggler crickets that they're going to get, like, say, later that night or the next night, they're not getting really any calcium from them at that point. They've already wiped it all off. So,
That's very
but
true.
again, that's just my process of doing it. Now,
Yeah.
the cyrtodactylus, I don't feed, especially the zebraicus, I don't feed them, as often as most of your other warmer species, gecko species,
How often you
like
feeding them?
like twice a week,
Okay.
6 to 8 crickets twice a week, just like the
Okay.
cave geckos. They're
Gotcha.
it's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
cooler temperature species.
Yeah.
They
I
tend to
know like
like
the
bigger
cave.
size crickets than smaller crickets too, so
Yeah.
they're getting big
Yeah.
prey items.
Yeah. I do the same thing with like my Euryplatus, the Sikori. Like I
Mm-hmm.
only feed it twice a week. Like the
Mm-hmm.
Ebanawi, I feed him like 3 times a week because he just fucking eats. Every time he sees
Mm-hmm.
a cricket moving, he is on it. Her, she's like, I'm good. So it's like, all right, I just give her on like Monday and Friday, and then she's good to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, and again, you got to think in the wild, they're more than likely not getting like, 8 crickets or 8 insects that's right in front of them that they're eating all at one time. They're probably
Yeah.
eating one or two here and there. The
Yeah,
next
yeah.
night
And the
they
rest are
may
just
eat one or
roaming.
two.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so we're just throwing a huge buffet in front of their face like all at one time,
yeah. Yeah.
and then so it's spread out throughout the week. If you figure that at least you throw 6 to 8 in there, that's giving them a couple days worth of feeding.
Hmm.
And then I kind of just tweak it accordingly from there. Each individual is a little bit different. So,
Yeah.
the next time I go to feed after 3 or 4 days, if I still see, a handful of crickets in there, then I'll pull them out, redust them, and
Yeah.
just throw
Okay.
those ones back in.
Do you
Okay.
use any other
Yeah.
types of feeders? Like, I'm sorry, guys, I got these flies in here, man. I'm like, I'm
Dude, that's
freaking
part
out
of
right now.
yeah,
It's
that's
part of
part
the
of what we do,
Hail.
man. We're good. You're good,
part
man.
of the game.
Do you have
Yeah.
any are you feeding any other type of feeders? Are you feeding any like worms, like mealworms or anything else? Do these guys take anything other than
So
crickets?
I've tried like waxworms and stuff, and every once in a while you'll get them to go towards it. They tend to like something that moves around a little bit more. Um, I can't do dubia because I'm allergic to them.
Really?
So
Oh damn.
yeah, I'm allergic to the frass. So
I've heard of this.
yeah, I had a colony going for like 8 or 9 months, and then was fine, and then all of a sudden just
In
became
general, do they
allergic.
eat them though? Like, do you get a good feeding response with them, or
They they will. They don't, they're not as, they don't move around as much as crickets do. So
it's why
um,
it's hard to say
more
cricket?
than likely, I would probably put them in like some sort of a feeding dish if you're gonna do like
Yeah.
cockroaches.
Yeah.
So they kind of see them go in a circle, and
Mm.
it kind of sparks them to go after it.
Do you
So
live on
that
a
cricket
farm?
movement makes them such a
I live on
superior.
an acre and a half, so I have chickens
Really?
and stuff. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Nice. Hell
yeah.
yeah. That's the
And that
goal.
cow over there was just I live the back of my fence is there's a cow pasture there, so that cow was actually on the other side of my fence in the backyard.
Cool.
That's what's up, man. I like that.
Yeah,
Looks like the guy I
yeah.
had for dinner last night.
I'll tell you what, those chickens are coming in handy right now with the price of eggs.
Oh, I bet. Oh, hey, man, yeah.
I get 3 to 4 eggs every day.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah. So for your like breeding wise, do you
mhm.
put these through a cool down or anything, or you just kind of let the whatever is happening outside it is what it is?
A little bit, the house does get a little cooler in the cooler winter months. And of course I change cycles of my lights. So I tend to um all my lights are on timers, so I pretty much just kind of go by what the sunlight is outside. Um, so they do get that visual cycle change, and
Okay.
probably a few degree temperature drop. Nothing crazy because they're already in the mid 70s anyways. So, I they can get into maybe the mid 60s would be the probably absolute lowest that they would get down to for a
Yeah.
nighttime during the winter seasons.
Yeah. It
Um,
doesn't get crazy cold in Thailand. I said
I was just gonna
I've
say, don't they have like a
I've
rainy
yeah,
season as opposed to a
yeah,
cold season?
they get a wet season and a dry season.
yep,
Like I said, I've been to Thailand like 10 times. So
okay,
yeah, yeah. And it feels like fucking like I said, Louisiana in the summertime over there. It is
yeah,
it is ridiculous. But yeah,
yeah,
I
and
don't
see, and
think it
that's the other thing too with them being in that area. Everybody's like, don't get them too warm, don't get them too warm, but I know they can take temperatures up into the low 80s.
yeah, yeah. I said I got like a little 25-watt halogen on them, but
Hmm.
it's like I said, it's in a bigger cage, like a 30
Hmm.
gallon cage. So it just raises the ambient a little bit, but it's
Yeah,
not crazy hot in there at all. Like it's
yeah,
probably like 78, 79 in there right now. And that's
yeah,
with it on plus a LED on it.
yeah, and that's perfect for like an upper ambient temperature for them, I think.
Hmm.
Um,
And
you know, I'm,
like I
I'm,
said, there's gradients too, so they can go
yeah,
down all the way to the bottom, get to that real cool 70s if it's too hot for them. So they got
100%,
options. Yeah,
100%, yeah, and I'm always afraid more of animals, especially reptiles and things that are cold blooded. They do way worse in warmer temperatures than they do in cooler. So I always err on caution of keeping things slightly cooler than hotter.
yeah. So when does breeding season actually start for them?
So in the wild, I'm not 100% sure. I just pretty much go, like I said, I follow the light cycles here,
Hmm.
and I'll get eggs, more like late spring, summer, early fall
Okay.
is what. Every once in a while, you might see some like later fall, but I very rarely have seen any eggs pop up in the winter time. But I also slow down a little bit on the feeding. As their metabolism slows down, the feeding slows down. It has to. So
Oh damn! I was about to ask you this question right here, but your post just said it. 200 days incubation.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that is so crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what
And
I
again,
was
it's
getting
all
myself
temperature
into.
dependent. It's like
Yeah.
anything.
Are
The
you
warmer
doing?
species.
Yeah, are you doing like room temp on your incubation, or you actually have a like a set temp for them?
No, I let it fluctuate.
Okay.
I throw them in little delis. I put them on a dry substrate in a bottle cap
Okay.
inside of wet, moist substrate in a deli cup,
Okay.
and then I usually leave them on a similar shelf to what their cages are.
Okay.
So, and they range, again, it ranges. You can get anything from, probably 150 to 200 or so,
Damn.
just depending on, again, what your temperatures are, what your ambient temperatures are, and what they're exposed to. Because, I've had things
Yeah.
go, I've had Halmaheras hatch in 90 days, and I've had other Halmaheras hatch in 225. So,
Mm.
Good
and
lord.
it's for the same species, you know what I mean? So,
That's crazy. Yeah. No, I got chihuahuas. Like I put mine in the incubator, so my chihuahuas
yeah,
usually is hatch between like 70 and like 90 days. Uh,
yeah,
and then like most of my, and I also have like a lot of arid species like stropheras, so they
yeah.
usually hatch out like 50 some days.
Oh,
So
yeah.
whenever I hear something that's 200 some days, I'm like, holy shit,
Again,
what
the
did I just get
cooler the
myself
cooler
into?
species tend to be in that more in that range a lot of times,
Not well. So I have Haemophilus
hmm
fasciata,
Yeah.
and from what I've been told is they are like a 3 to 6 month incubation, and they're an
hmm
arid gecko. They're from Tanzania,
hmm
so
hmm Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, so I was like, great. I was like I said, I got those gonna take forever. All these cyrtodactylus gonna take fucking forever. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
patience is gonna have to be a virtue on this one.
And that's why so many people I think, got into like cristids and gargoyles and leopard geckos. They hatch out so damn fast, and you
Yeah,
know, you're getting
yeah,
reward
almost. Yeah,
faster.
it's like almost that instant gratification.
Yeah, and your
You look at
colonies
some
can
of
come
these.
faster too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because I think who was I talking to? Oh, I was talking to Justin because he was doing the Enealoides laticeps, the Amazon dwarf iguanas.
Okay.
And yeah, he was like, yeah, our ranges have been like 180 days to like 237 days. I was like,
Yeah.
God damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, holy shit, that's a long
And
ass
and
time.
and keeping things in an incubator, you're more than likely gonna get probably a little bit better of a hatch rate, um, just because they're not having so much of a fluctuation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If the egg is at a certain time in its incubation period where it needs to be a little more consistent and it drops too low, you could end up killing the egg too. So
yeah.
I don't go crazy with my breeding. Um, I'm not trying to mass produce everything that I have. I
Oh
want.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, especially
I'd
like
be
these like no people don't a lot of people don't even know what the hell a cyrtodactylus is. So
Yeah.
producing a bunch of them would not be a smart thing to do. No,
No,
you
and
can
I
produce
and
like
I and I did that at the beginning. I didn't produce, a ton by any means, but I had a few babies that were just hatching out the first couple of years, and then I was sitting on them for so long because I didn't bringing them to the shows. Nobody knew what the hell they were. People thought they were cave
yeah.
geckos or leopard geckos, and you just move them at 250 $300 for a lizard like
Yeah.
that nobody knows what it is. So
Yeah, it's hard. Trust me. Like I said, I've been like I've vended one show, had these stunning like I had a Strophaeus ciliaris intermediates
hmm
on my table, and they all
yeah,
just gravitate towards the stuff that they already know. Like, all right,
yeah,
what's that? But I want this. I was like, come on, man,
yeah,
you want this right here. But
yeah, and yeah.
it just takes a little bit more information of getting it down or getting it to the people. So
Yeah, and at the
so thank
shows too, you're dealing with a lot more of the beginner intermediate people
Oh
too.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
So, they're
Yeah,
not going to dive into something that they're unfamiliar with as
yeah,
easy. That's why the crested geckos are so popular. Everybody knows what a crested gecko is.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we've had over 20 years of them, putting out all that information. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I had some
it's
crested geckos in the late 90s, man.
Really?
see, there you go. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've been out here for a very long time, so that's why they're so popular now. They've
And I'll
had
tell
that
you,
longevity.
they looked totally different from what they look like now. Like I had, olive Dalmatians and stuff, and you don't even see those available anymore
Yeah,
because everybody
those
wants the
and
reds and the
buckskin and
oranges.
all that shit, right?
Hmm.
It's one of the
Yeah.
first geckos I had, man, and I thought he was so. Long story, but I wound up getting rid of him, not realizing what was really going on. He was this darkish phantom animal that wind up turning this olive green, and I was just like,
Yep.
this isn't what I want, man. And I wound up giving the damn thing away. I wish I had him now.
Yeah, me too. There's a few things I wish I would have kept, especially
Yeah,
the Madagascar leaf-tail geckos.
yeah,
There you
right.
go.
Like I said, yeah, when you grab them, their things are probably like less than $100.
Yeah, the Fantasticus were coming in at like $100.
Yeah,
The
yeah, them
Imbriatus
things
and
are.
all that. The Giants were like 150. I mean, it was pretty. They were pretty regularly cheap.
Yeah, I remember looking at them like on back in the day, like Reptile magazine and stuff, and you'll see like prices for them, and they're like, "Damn, these things are cheap as shit." It's like, "Can I get one, Dad?" No. All right.
Yeah, the very first geckos I ever got were the standing eye, and I actually ordered them out of the back of a Reptile magazine and sent a money order and the whole
Yeah.
deal.
Did they just stop importing those or something? What's up
So
with?
some of the standing eye,
Yeah.
no, they still bring in a few. They're limited quantities on what they're bringing in though.
Okay. Because I spoke to someone the other day that I had on one of our other podcasts, and he was saying that he lives somewhere near me, like in Maine or Mass, somewhere up in New England, and he heard that there was a pair down in Texas, and he dropped everything he was doing to go and get these standing eyes that were in Texas. And I didn't really ask, if it was because of importing or exporting or anything, because we were talking about,
Hmm.
trackies, the rough snout
Oh
geckos.
yeah, yeah,
So we were talking about that, and then that came up, and I had just assumed that he had meant they weren't importing them anymore. But I should have asked, and I didn't because we were talking about something else, and
yeah. As far as I know, I know Tony from Rock Geckos.
that's who I was talking to.
Um,
It's funny you say
yeah,
that.
he had said that he was supposed to get some wild gods.
Oh, so they were wild then. All right, that's because that's exactly
Yeah,
what I'm talking about. That's why I was having. That's what was
yeah,
on my podcast. So he was saying
yeah.
that he had a pair down in Texas, and I did, like I said, I totally forgot to ask him why, but he was like he had some other plans, and everything went to crap because he heard there was some wild caught. So that's why they were wild caught, wild
Yeah,
caught standing eye down in Texas. All right,
Got to get
yeah,
that first
yeah,
blood.
and yeah, exactly. Because I sold him a pair. Well, we traded, and he has a pair of standing eye that I produced.
awesome. Okay,
So, and he's gotten babies from and stuff.
cool, cool, cool.
So,
So,
again, I know,
what
I
do
know
you
that they're
use?
limited on what they bring in from Madagascar. It's so regulated.
They should.
Yeah, yeah. So, what do you use for like your incubation medium? Was that like Pangea hatch?
The hatch, yeah, the hatch, right?
Oh, okay, all right.
And like I said, what I do is I put them in bottle caps on dry hatch right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, I'll stick the bottle cap down into moistened hatch right.
Okay, because
I do
obviously
that
I
with
know
a
like a
lot of
lot of
my
people
hard
do
shelled
like
eggs.
yeah, like what they do with like leaf tail geckos and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like I do that with my standing eye, my Halmaheras that all the bovini that have like more of the harder shell. I'll,
Okay,
I'll I'll leave them on dry medium inside of moist medium.
okay,
Have you tried it with your gargoyle eggs by any chance?
I they dry out so easy.
Really?
Yeah. So I've never had success. I've always had success burying my gargs like about halfway, the eggs about halfway in semi-moist substrate. They just shrivel so fast, and it's so hard to bring them back once they start shriveling up,
Yeah.
oh man.
just like a crusty.
And so I'm running into
So
issues. Well, not issues, but with them getting too wet. I'm getting
And you're
almost
molding.
condensation on the top, and it sucks when
Hmm.
it drips on them. They almost get like slime. I'm just like I'm looking at, been doing this, never really had an issue for 6, 7 years of breeding these New Caledonian geckos. And now all of a sudden I'm having issues that I've never had. And I'm doing the exact same thing I've always done. And I'm now looking
And
for another way to incubate.
And sometimes too, you may think that it's a substrate issue, but they could just be infertile eggs that are molding.
Yeah, I'm wondering that in this
And
particular.
you have females that some year they'll produce for you numerous years, and then all of a sudden you just don't get good eggs from them that one year. You know what I mean? Like, um, I know that there was an issue a few years ago with people that were just not reproducing cresties and garbs as much, and a lot of people had said that they felt like Pangea had like changed their formula of the food. And
What is it?
it was never really proven out, but a lot of people were kind of saying that, hey, I'm only feeding Pangea, and now all of a sudden I'm not getting
What is
as
what
many
is
viable eggs as I was in the past.
Not to get off track, but I was reading some of the ingredients the other day because I ran
Mm-hmm.
into a jam where I normally get my rapashi from. I use the rapashi, but
Mm-hmm.
I ran into a jam getting a flavor that I wanted. So I started looking at some other foods and be like, you know what? Why are you so like set in your ways? Look and see if there's maybe some other foods or something. So I wound up looking at Pangea, right? And I read the back of the ingredient lists of a few of them, and I tell you what, there wasn't any bugs whatsoever, like zero bugs, soy proteins, like things that if you were a man and you wanted to take care of your body, you would not
Mm-hmm.
be putting any of this in your body. And it kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and all their formulas aren't like that. So I'm not trying to bash by any means the company, but
Yeah.
some of the mixes are absolutely things I would not feed my animals, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I always use the Pangea that I use has insects in it.
you would have to.
It's usually black soldier fly larvae.
Yeah, I would have thought they all had them. This is just very recently.
No.
Like I'm saying, I thought they all. I mean, why would you not? I mean, they don't.
Yeah, I think they got
Yeah.
ones with it's called like the complete diet, which has the bugs, and then they got the other
Yeah.
one that's
Like, and
considered
they'll
like
say
a
like,
treat.
and it'll say like fig and insect on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
watermelon says complete diet. There's no bugs in the watermelon flavored one.
you know.
Yeah, I mix a lot of flavors and stuff together too. So I'm not like um I'm not like a one flavor guy.
Sure,
So I
sure.
usually get a few different flavors and mix them together so they're kind of getting the best of the nutrient value is a little bit different from flavor to flavor.
Have you ever
So
tried to give any of that stuff to any of these cyrtodactylus? Any chance they take any type of like fruit thing? I imagine they're
I've
pulling off of plants.
I've tried giving the diet to just about every gecko. You know, I haven't seen any. I've seen a little bit of licking on the bigger species, like the Ariangiensis and the Pachellus.
Okay.
I haven't really seen any response from the smaller species. Um, but again, it's definitely like a more of a just like a taste it and then they move on. They're definitely not consuming it by any means.
Yeah. All right, so we got a question in the comment section, and this will be for you, Chris, because you keep
Yeah.
Suma. So, he said, what enclosures you guys use as a nursery enclosure for hatchlings? This would be for arboreal day gecko babies like Clemeri and Williams eye,
So the smaller species like that, just tall, like little delis, deli cups with the mesh tops.
like the
Um,
32 ounces.
yeah, like the tall ones, those are just ideal just because they're so freaking small and they squeeze out of you can't keep them in an exoterra at that size.
Yeah,
They're gonna get out. So they're easy to control and maintain humidity levels. They're easier to just kind of pop the top and feed and close the lid again real quick. We being with a faster species. Um, the Clemeri I hatched the Clemeri and it's been in there for like shoot, it's like 4 or 5 months old and it's still in the deli cup. So
yeah,
um, those are for the smaller species like that is ideal. The Williams eye, I have a good friend that has had pretty good success with the Williams eye, and he does the same thing. Keeps them in small little delis as youngsters. They're a little more finicky with their humidity levels than some of the other species. So those ones you got to really be dialed in with the Williams eye. Um,
Are are
but
yours
that's the
mesh
best way.
tops, or do you just got holes in the top?
No, it's like the screen mesh lids.
Screen mesh. Okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other species you'd be good in really any of the exos because smaller exos with the babies being a little bit bigger. Some of the smaller species I would just probably start off in delis. Um, the standing eye I hatch the eggs, they go right back with the parents. I'm like, done.
Oh,
They're the
really?
only, yeah, they're the only Philsuma species that won't. Actually, they do a million times better with the parents than they do by themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I did
I've
see.
had
I did see
I've had
that one picture
14
you
babies
have.
running around in with the parents before, you know.
Really?
Where's that one
Yeah,
picture at? I saw it on
it's
here
towards the
too.
top with where she's laying on the mom.
Yeah.
Are you breeding
Yeah.
tokays too?
Yep.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, I have 5 pair going right now, and a few others that I just hatched are just paired together. So
It's an awesome picture. I love that picture.
yeah, mostly normals on the tokays. I have a couple patternless lines, and then I have a male that's like the considered the green line. Like he's definitely green, kind of green
What are they,
toned
Green
bottom.
Galaxies? Do they call them Green Galaxy, or is that something different?
That might be something else.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
super.
yeah.
I'm not a big morph guy, so
I think they're
I just happened to get a variety. I bought a group of them as youngsters that were all captives, and to add to my existing youngsters that I had bought from a few other people just to get some different bloodlines.
very cool.
Oh,
But
I
they're
like how
fun.
I was just
They're fun.
looking at you.
Yeah. Well, and that's the best part. You know, you keep those guys like the Tokays. You know, you don't have all these like 15 baby enclosures because you just put them right with the parents, so it cuts down on your
Yeah.
cage space. You know.
Right.
I
So
definitely don't
speaking of,
recommend keeping babies of any other species besides those couples, though, with the adults for sure.
Definitely not
yeah.
gargoyles.
No, no.
So for the so for the babies, when you do like get them out the eggs and everything like that,
Yep.
how are you setting them up, enclosure wise?
So I always start like with most of my terrestrial gecko species, and even my gargoyles. I start a lot everything out on paper towel. Um, I do that just for the first few weeks, just to make sure that I'm seeing like pooping and stuff like that. Because when they're on substrate, especially at the zebraicus size with babies, I mean they're tiny, so you're definitely not going to see any feces in a substrate. So I just usually just kind of get them going. I don't want them to dive at crickets too and get a mouthful of substrate right away as a
Yeah.
baby.
Okay.
So I'm usually onto paper towel at first with some just fake plants in there for them to hide under and
Okay.
crawl on
And you
top
got
of.
them in a bin as well, right? To see
And just
like
little
humidity up.
like shoebox size tubs, yeah.
Okay. One baby
Just
per shoebox, or you put in multiple
I've
too.
kept multiples. Yeah, they do
And
fine.
you
They
haven't
do
seen.
fine.
Okay. And these are the
You just
things
gotta watch them.
good to
I
know.
usually separate if I start seeing like a size difference, the growth
Okay.
difference. That's when I'll definitely separate them.
Yeah. I wonder if this is like a Southeast Asian thing, because like you said, like so tokays are kind of family oriented, skunk
Hmm.
geckos are, and they're
Hmm.
both from that same area. So
Hmm.
maybe some of these geckos are more in tune to do that from that area than
Be
other geckos
maternal.
from different. Yeah, yeah, like I
Yeah,
said, it could be something like
hard.
that.
It's hard to say. It's pretty cool though. I think it's
Yeah,
you don't hear
it
about it a
definitely is.
lot, especially with with gecko species. Like you just don't hear about it. So it's
Yeah,
cool to be able to just let babies either hatch in the cage or be able to throw like my standing eye. I hatch them out. I
yeah,
give them that first shed up for a couple days. They go right back with the parents. No problems.
nice,
It's very cool.
nice.
And they recognize them, huh? They'll know that that's their baby when you put them right back in, huh?
I've never tried to mix babies with different parents, but I never tried that. But you get a little bit of fighting with the siblings. Especially when there's this little bit of a size difference. Like you could put a bowl with crickets in it, and one goes down and bites a cricket, and they all see all the crickets moving around the bowl, but they'll chase that one that's got the cricket in his mouth. It never fails.
Yeah.
So, but they're pretty
So
good. I don't, every once in a while nip tails, but nothing crazy.
okay. So are they slow growers or they grow pretty fast for you after
Um,
hatching?
yeah, I mean they're on the slower side. I definitely say that year and a half, closer to probably 2 years to be, mature size.
Okay.
You can start sexing them at like that 8 month ish period.
And
But
they just
they
drop the
start
ball
out.
sack, right? The
Yeah,
males.
yeah. You
Okay.
definitely see a bulging. at the base of the
Okay.
tail. I've never even bothered to try and pour sex them, just because the ones that I did raise up, I had them long enough to just, and then that one's a boy and that one's a girl, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they just start out so tiny. It's like it's crazy how small they are when they come out. So you're feeding small insects pretty much like right eighth inch insects right away.
I don't know. He said he doesn't see any Lycodactylus Kim Holloway on Morph Market anymore. Uh, I guess anyone know why people don't breed them?
I don't even know what they are.
They're
Very
tough.
small gecko. A very small
Yeah.
gecko. I know that.
They're similar to like the Williams eye in
Yeah.
size. They're super black with a little bit of color on them, but more base body of a black, or like
Yeah.
black color.
They got stripes, right? They got some stripes going down the
Yeah,
back.
they have like a
Yeah.
stripe, but the colorations on them is on the kind of fairly faint.
Yeah, it's really
Um,
dark and stuff. Yeah.
but you just don't see very many people working with them, and I think that's kind of
Yeah.
an
I think
issue too.
the only people I really see posting about them is usually Josh's frogs.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it
not so
seems
right.
like
The black ones with the white stripe down their back. They look like a little day gecko.
yeah,
I
they are
think it's
day
a
gecko,
yeah.
but
I
I
think
can't
that's
remember what
exactly where
the
I saw them. Is on Josh's frogs. They look like a little black felsuma with a white
Yep.
stripe down its back. Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
okay,
my buddy
okay.
had those, and he was having trouble finding a. I think he needed a male, and he just never could find one, and
Where
then
are
just
they
kind of
from? Where do they
moved
come
on
from
from them.
naturally?
Those I'm not sure
They are. Let's see here.
because they're the Lacodactylus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, but I can share this picture real quick though. I'm just looking at it.
Right, I
They have
never.
a little bit of yellow, if I remember correct, too. Yeah,
Yeah, just like that. It's like yellow on top of the head,
on
black
the head. Yeah.
stripes. Yeah. So that's what they look like.
Do they look different as a baby? Maybe. So I'm thinking of on Josh's frogs. It kind of the body looks like that, but they're black.
Yeah. Well,
They
this
got
is
a
Josh's
white
Frog's
stripe.
website.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Now I'm curious as to what the hell I'm talking
No, I
about.
got. Okay. Well, oh, he says they're from Tanzania.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Isn't the Williams eye from Tanzania as
Well, the
well?
Williams are from, yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
They're definitely they're from Tanzania.
So
Which
these
is
little
funny that they
babies.
call those a day gecko, but they're not a philsuma.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like we got all these. So if you think about it, so I mean, we have all these different velvet geckos as well. So you got
Yeah,
some Australian velvet geckos.
Australians.
You got the velvet geckos from Madagascar. You got velvet
Yeah,
geckos in Tanzania. So there's
yeah,
I guess it just depends on who names the stuff, right?
and probably where it's from. Yeah,
Yeah. So for the
I guess it's the
babies,
day gecko of Tanzania as opposed to the day gecko of Madagascar.
yeah, right. Yeah, and that's where those scientific names come in handy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So for the babies, so are you like what are you usually feeding them, and then how frequently are you feeding them?
Definitely a little more often than the adults for sure.
Yeah.
They're not consuming, probably not consuming as many, I would say, but just small, either really really small roach species or um, flightless fruit flies, or just like eighth inch crickets,
Okay.
pinhead, size. They tend to go for something a little bit larger of a prey item than what you would expect, especially as adults. Like they're not as they're not as like don't seem to dive as much as at the smaller crickets as they do the ones that you're like questionable whether you should pull it or not. Those are usually the ones that go for first.
Yeah.
Makes more sense though. If you're gonna exert all of your energy trying to catch prey, it
100%.
needs to be something that's gonna last you longer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not a big species as it is anyways. The males stay smaller than the females. The males are like 7 gram ish. Females are more like 10 to 11 grams. A little bit longer in length.
Yeah, I think like their bodies kind of remind me of Coleonyx, of
Hmm.
that typical size. So a little bit
Hmm.
smaller than a leopard gecko.
This
Uh,
is the one I was talking about, Jay. See? Can you guys see that?
yeah. What is this? What's the name on it?
Uh, striped gecko, gecko gon- gonatus vatidius.
Oh, that's a
Oh,
micro gecko.
yeah. That's from South
That's
America,
a
right?
micro gecko species. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Gecko fatatus.
Yeah, I never clicked on it like this. I always just seen a little picture with it looked like a little
Yeah,
dingo.
those things are like the size of like morning geckos,
All
Yeah.
right.
if not a little
Yeah. Really
smaller.
small. And they're terrestrial too, right? Or somewhat
Uh,
terrestrial? Because
I think somewhat.
Yeah.
yeah. Because I
Again, I
see
think it
them
depends
always.
on which species, you know.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Josh is
But
finding
yeah,
some data of this.
babies again, just smaller insect, prey items, and
Yeah.
definitely more frequent than the adults, for
Okay.
sure.
So so
Micro
for
gecko.
during breeding season, do you up their feeding, or do you still
A
keep
little
the same
bit,
for like?
a little bit. Yeah, their metabolism's going. They're exerting more energy. They're moving around. The
Yeah.
females are going through egg laying. They're having to support two eggs that are in there, in them,
Yeah.
and so they're definitely females for sure. You
Okay.
can even um, again, you can even supplement a little more with calcium if you're not supplementing anytime. The pterodactyl species, from what I've read, tend to have a little more of a calcium crash. So supplementation's way more important during breeding season
Okay.
than out of it. But you can see I mean, you can see the eggs in the females too. They get real
Yeah.
plump down by the back
Yeah.
legs.
Because I got these ones from Stephanie, and they were already breeding, and she already got eggs from her already,
Hmm.
and she showed me like a picture of it. She had it on a clear deli cup. Show me the picture. Already had two little round eggs in them. I'm like, oh man, you need to hurry up and bring that gecko over here now. Man,
Yeah, yeah, you definitely don't want to stress her out during that time.
right? Yeah, but yeah,
And
no,
you can
definitely.
see sometimes that looks like the females will have eggs in them, but it's more than likely just ovulation.
Yeah.
Um, so that's people can get kind of confused too.
Yeah. What's their gestation period?
Um, that I'm probably around 30 to 40 days, I would guess.
Okay.
You don't see the eggs until they're fairly established.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of the times when I was breeding them, on the higher end, I was leaving them together pretty much year round. So
Yeah.
I didn't separate them during the off season. So
Okay.
I kind of let them do their thing. Most of my species, I really don't separate unless there's fighting.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on separating these unless, like you said, unless there is some fighting. But I'm
Hmm.
planning on just keeping them together year round, and then
Hmm.
they'll just go with the seasons. You know,
Yeah,
when
they'll
it's
go with the
cold out,
flow.
yeah, when it's cold out, they're gonna slow down. They're not gonna do anything. When it gets warm, they'll start breeding. So
Yeah, and I've never seen any aggressions, even with keeping females together. Like I said,
yeah,
I have two females that have lived together for a couple years now, and
okay.
I've never had any issues with them, as far as like fighting or anything crazy like
Yeah.
that.
Have you had any issues with like lazy males?
Um, not that I've experienced. I've usually had a decent. When I did have a few more of them, I had a decent ratio and
Hmm.
was pretty much, I mean, all the females were pretty much laying. They're inconsistent, though, I will say that. I didn't seem
Yeah,
to have, see anything that was consistent as far as, like every 60 days I was getting eggs from females and stuff. It was like maybe a couple clutches and then nothing the rest of the season, and then
yeah.
some females nothing at the beginning of the season and a couple clutches at the end of the season. So it's really, um,
Okay.
I think one of the things with them too is I think they do better with the male constantly with the females as opposed to if you have multiple females like moving the male from cage to cage to cage with each female.
Yeah.
I noticed that with gargoyles too. Like the gargoyles do way better with leaving the males with the females as opposed to trying to spread the male around. I tried that a few years ago with the Gargs, and my success rate dropped, and egg production dropped tremendously.
Oh,
And then I put it back together in like 1.3s and 1.4s, and it was right back to normal.
Nice.
And leaving them year round.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So got a question in the chat. Bioscapist said had another question about baby Clemorite. If they are cohabiting with the parents in one larger enclosure, how do you make sure that they're getting fed?
That's tough. The Clemorite can be feisty towards their babies. My suggestion is heavy feeding and always offering Pangea. And then you're just going to have to, ideally, the situation would be to have some isopods, small species of isopods in there, which gives the baby an opportunity to always have some, food that's accessible, and offering different sized crickets. The adults are going to chase the bigger crickets. The baby's only going to bite a cricket that it can eat. You know what I mean? If it can't swallow it, it's going to spit it out.
Yeah.
Same thing with like my tokays. When I have really, really tiny baby tokays, I have to throw small to medium crickets in there because the adults are getting large, the babies aren't going to take a large cricket. No. So you just have to do that variety. And again, always offering Pangea. That's
what he said. He offers the fruit flies and Pangea, mostly like those Heidi eyes.
Heidi eye, yeah.
Yeah. He just bought some dwarf isopods, dwarf whites. So
and that'll help a lot. Yeah, and just throwing pieces of vegetable like cucumber or carrots, stuff like that to get the isopods to come up out of the ground. So that it gives the babies an opportunity to actually see them. Otherwise, they might not run across the isopods very often.
Very smart.
Yeah, I know mine go for that damn gecko diet whenever I feed like my chihuahuas and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You see all the isopods going right there, and then they just boom, boom, thank you. Now all my isopods are gone. Now I gotta redo it because I'm like, who else gonna clean up this shit?
Yeah, so I use a lot of silicone bowls, or like or the square ones that you use for like cooking candies or chocolates and stuff in.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You can get them from like Michael's and cut them up. Yeah, exactly. Or the bottle cap ones. Yeah. Every one of those that has crusty Pangea that's left over, it gets squeezed into whatever cage has isopods. It doesn't go away. Or the roaches.
Yeah, I just give it to my crickets and let them just go out.
Or that,
Yeah, they clean that stuff up, and then now my crickets are gut loaded. Feed you off, boom, we're good to go. Cycle.
And nothing's going to waste. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many people like never thought of that trick. Like I've talked to so many gecko keepers. They're like, I'm tired of the Pangea getting moldy or blah blah blah, and it's going to waste. And I go, let it dry out and just sprinkle it in with your insects. And they're like, that's genius. Plus, you don't have to clean it. It's less cleanup.
That's what this thing is right here. I keep every time when I'm going to clean up, I just crunch it all up into this little tray.
Into one bowl. Yep.
I'll sprinkle it out when it's full into all the roaches or the ice, whatever. I have all these different feeders, man. I've got freaking 25 different feeders.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of cockroach species that I breed, but other than that, I buy crickets.
It was definitely all by accident. I wound up having, at the time I was breeding frogs. I had some really big frogs. Still do. I have some African bullfrogs and stuff. And as you know, you eat small little food. Like a little bug isn't going to do it. You're not feeding them crickets, So I was looking for the biggest roaches I could find. So I got into like cave roaches and giant hissing cockroaches. And then that led me down the wormhole, being like, well, these are cool. I might as well just get them if I'm going to raise them to feed these things. I might as well just have a couple of them. And now I've got like 6 or 7 different species and colonies of cockroaches. And
yeah, the death heads are really good too. They're a bigger size. The death heads can't climb. The only problem with them is they like to burrow down a little bit.
I thought about getting those, but I just like I said, I got the orange head, so I
Yeah,
found kind of similar, so I
similar.
didn't really get them. Same thing as like the discoids.
Hmm.
Pretty dubious. So why would I? I mean, I guess in theory I should or I could, but I just never got them because I had something super similar.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I wish I could. I wish I could have kept my dubia colonies. It would have saved me so much money on feeding costs.
So, with these geckos, is there any health concerns, or do they stress out easy or anything like that?
I haven't seen any major stress issues. The only thing as far as health concerns, like that I've that's always been concerning to me is the calcium crash. Depending on how many eggs they're producing and stuff like that. It seems like a lot of people that I've talked to always that have kept them some of the cyrtodactyl species for a while have always seemed to kind of go back to that calcium crash. So they supplement heavy for females. Um, I've had a male that dropped its tail when I tried to grab him one time. Um, but other than that, they're a little squirmy.
Yeah.
They're a little flighty. Um, but I haven't had any like stress issues as far as even cohabiting multiple females together or trios or things like that.
How
Um,
would someone identify a calcium crash with the cyrtodactylus? Like if someone had what would they look for?
well, I don't there's not really a whole lot of signs. It's because it happens so fast and it's not noticeable, and then all of a sudden you have a dead female. You know what I mean? So a lot of the times people are recognizing it because their female died. You know, I know people have talked about that with chihuahuas and stuff because their eggs are so huge to the size of a gecko that they are that they're they're pumping out so much calcium to have eggs, and a lot of the times you really don't notice it until it's past the
Do they
point.
do they have those calcium sacs in the mouth like some of
So
the?
when they open their mouth, you can see on the backs, on the insides, you'll see
Okay.
little kind of calcium sacs. They don't have the jowls,
Right.
like some of your other, like the day gecko species do.
Okay.
So that's something you could definitely monitor, is trying to get them to open their mouth and make sure that there's some sort of reserves that are in there. If you're not seeing it on a female, it would definitely up your calcium intake some sort. Some people have even done the powdered calcium in a little dish, and they'll lick it like a leopard gecko would.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I got the cuddle bone. I just kind
The
of
cuddle bone.
just chopped it all up like really fine. So it's like
Mhm.
more because you remember when we did that episode with Jake, and he was talking about the cyrtodactylus. They don't want that real fine powder. It needs to be a little bit more gritty.
Mhm.
So yeah, and that's
Yeah,
what
I've
I
heard of
just
people actually shaving the cuddle
yeah,
bone
that's what I did.
as
I
a
pretty much
yeah.
shaved it and then kind of chopped it up. So it's like really not it's not fine at all. It's almost
Mhm.
like coarse sand or something like that.
Mhm.
And then I just got and all three of them, all three enclosures have that a bottle cap of that stuff in there. But I haven't seen them
Yeah.
touch it, but it's just in there. Like they use it, great. If they don't, it's there.
And again,
So
a few people that I've talked to, some people say that they do, some people say that they don't. So, I know Elizabeth has been always offering it to hers, and she says that hers take it. So
yeah. And that's
it
that's
could.
who I talked to about that. And she's like, do
Mhm.
it, they're gonna take it. I was like, all right, cool. Ordered it, got it. I was like, all right. I don't know if they took it or not, but I was like, it's in there.
Yeah, yeah. You can't say you didn't try, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like I said, I pulled. I pulled because I said I pulled all the information I could from that. I think it was like a Geckos Unlimited post that she made
Hmm.
a while back,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
I printed all that shit out. So I
yeah,
was like, all right,
Those
follow
forms
this stuff to
are
the
awesome.
T. Yeah,
yeah. I've seen her posts on there.
yeah. And she was real because I was like, hey, can I just do this? I do an Arcadia with a lot of my stuff, like the supplements.
Okay.
I was like, can I just
Hmm.
do this Arcadia where to get this? She's like, no, it needs to be this. I was like, you're real adamant about this, so it's like, all
Hmm.
right, we'll try this out, no problem. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
like I
mean,
said, well,
people are gonna pump what works for them, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
she's
yeah,
she's had great success. I know she's hatched tons of babies. So
yeah. No, and it's just like, all right, cool. I'll work it this year, and then maybe start implementing changes as I go. Um,
mm,
and I'm just notating everything down on my phone. Like, all right,
yeah,
this happened on this day, this happened on that day. It's like I made this change right here, and now they're doing this. Because I'm really trying to, trying to study their behaviors and uh, get some. Like I said, I want to get my own care sheets down with this stuff because
yeah,
I want to start posting that stuff and help
gotcha.
people out and see if they want to, see if they want to make that decision to go ahead and try to take a stab at working with these geckos.
Yeah, and they're still so fairly new in the hobby. I mean,
Yeah.
all the cyrtodactyl species. I don't think anybody's really jumped in, you know, fully with just dealing with cyrtodactylus,
Yeah.
besides
Yeah.
maybe Jim.
Jim. Yeah. I'm about to say Jim is the cyrtodactylus, no,
Because
shouting
I think
monk.
the only thing he had, besides that, is he keeps those night lizards. Is the only thing non-cyrtodactylus I think
Oh
that
yeah.
he keeps right now. Yeah, the live, that live bearing lizard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
either of you guys
Yeah.
know when cyrtodactylus in general started coming into the hobby? Like, when were they introduced into captivity? Is there any data on
Um, that I don't know for sure. I've seen wild caughts have been coming in for a while.
that? Yeah.
Especially like the Pucellus. The Pucellus is probably the most commonly imported. Um, I don't know if it's just availability in the wild
Yeah. I always see
or,
those,
or
and then I
what.
always see the Erie giantsis.
Irian yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
Which
again,
I'm
they're also the bigger species too, so they're
so
easier
it's a
to
lot easier.
find.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine that some of these smaller ones are super easy to find, especially when they hide a lot during the day under
Yeah.
leaf litter. And, who knows what crevices they're in? You know what I mean?
I mean, and
Yeah.
not for nothing, but something's got to be somewhat popular in order for these people to even go look for them, right? Like, they're not just
Yeah,
catching things and selling them. They're out there looking for things in particular, and those things they're looking for have to have some kind of demand. It just wouldn't make sense. It's
Oh yeah.
yeah, and who knows? I mean, and also too, I'm sure a lot of these guys, as they're out, they're catching, they're looking for maybe a few different species, but they're probably catching anything they run across.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what
Just
I mean?
accident. Oh, grab that. That looks
Yeah,
cool.
let me just
That
snatch
looks
this
cool.
too. Yeah,
Put this in the
and then
bag.
people, actually purchase it, and then they're like, oh, this is worth it for me to catch every time.
Yeah.
Um, again, why you might see way more skunk geckos, way more tokays being caught, but then only a handful of some of these other species is they're still just snatching whatever they see, and the popularity hasn't gotten to the point of a tokay gecko, for instance, per se.
Yeah.
So, but
So
yeah, as far as timing on them coming in, I have no idea.
is there any
Um,
books? Is there a lot of Is you guys, either of you, have found any type of like published literature on these things? Or
Not
it's
a
such a
lot.
big genus,
no,
right? Like, I feel like there should be so much more for. There's more cyrtodactylus, right, than any other species. Jay, isn't there, like, aren't they the most like
I think
speciest
so.
of all the geckos?
It's
Yeah.
one of them for sure.
And
Yeah.
I don't hardly ever see. I mean, maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, but books or articles, I'm
No.
not seeing as
I
much.
so a lot of my stuff are a lot of information that I got are from those scientific journals.
Yeah,
So I go on
yeah,
like academia.edu and I
yeah,
pull a lot from there. And then there was like one book, but it's not even about Cyrtodactylus. It was Reptiles of India, and it had like a few pages on Cyrtodactylus, and all it really talked about was like scale counts and not much else, not even
yeah.
our habitat or anything. It was like, all right, whatever, cool.
Yeah, it's very much like a snout to vent length, and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of very small description, but nothing as far as care or specific areas they're from, or
yeah,
whether they're terrestrial or arboreal, or where they were found under leaf litter or in a tree,
yeah.
or what.
You probably
It's
have
more
better luck.
scientific stuff.
Yeah, you probably have better luck on going on iNat and getting a lot more information because like they'll
Yeah,
give you no, you'll find coordinates of where they're from, which can
yeah,
then you can go to your weather app, plug those
yeah,
in, get some kind of stuff from there. Then you look at the pictures and see like I found some I was on YouTube and I found like a few things from this one guy that had uh, he was like a photographer or something, and I'm just kind of gauging the whole area, not even the gecko, just the whole environment of what it looks like and like how to replicate that. So that right there gave me a little bit of more information as well, you know. It's because, like I said, just
Absolutely.
not a whole lot. People don't tell you like, oh, you know, they come like this time of temperature and this kind of environment, or blah blah blah. It's like you really have to go and search this information out.
Yeah, and you got to think a little bit too, about where you would think that they would be coming from, because if you look up some temperatures, like in, say Madagascar, for instance, there are some species that are kept in the 70s, but they're more of a ground dweller. They're covered by the canopy. They're not like a panther chameleon that's up on the top of the trees, that's exposed to the heat and sun all day, and
Yeah,
so you are going to have that variance in temperature and climate.
yeah,
Even if you are looking at the weather app and it says, "Oh, it's 90 today," it's like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, but where? Like the
yeah. Where
ambient
are they?
somewhat, but in a forest, it's not in the forest ground level. It's not going to be 90 degrees with the canopy and humidity and those
Yeah,
types of
yeah.
things.
Like I said, that YouTube video, like the ground was really wet. It was like
Yeah,
that soil was really wet. I was like, holy shit.
yeah,
So like that right there gave me, it's like, okay, like, and it probably could have just been the wet season as well.
yeah, for
So
sure.
you got to take all that stuff into consideration.
Yeah, and you
Uh,
think of more terrestrial stuff is always going to be, especially forest type terrestrial stuff is always going to be similar to, dart frogs and things like that. So it's going to be
yeah,
a little wetter, it's going to be a little cooler, as opposed to
yeah,
something that's up off the ground.
yeah, and yeah, because
And
like
that's
even
why I
some,
use UV to a minimum too with nocturnal species.
yeah,
It's like if they're in a forest that's covered by canopy, they're really not being exposed to UV as much as, say, a chameleon or a bearded dragon that's wide open and running around
yeah,
on the sand and there is no cover. So,
yeah. I mean, and like I said, there's always um no, I'm not excuse, but there's always something that defies those rules. Like my strophares, those things defy that rule right there
yeah,
because they are open baskers, so they're out all day just
for sure.
hugging the trees and stuff like that. So they get like they get the 12% UV
Oh,
all
100%.
day every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like even somewhat of tokay because like you said they're up in the trees, so they might get a
Mhm.
little bit. So you could do like a 6% or a shade dweller on them. With them, like you could do like a very low UV, but like you said, like how much are they actually getting? Because
Yeah,
are they
and
sticking
especially
a
with
foot
tokays
out?
too, because they're so likely to be in these little tight crevices.
Yeah,
So even during the day when they're sleeping, like, are they really even? I mean, they might be in some dark little hole in some tree that
I was like,
they don't get
I was like,
any exposure.
yeah, I've had one tokay. I mean, and she would like cryptic bask, like so
Hmm.
she would stick her tail out just enough to where that UV would hit. Because I had it was like a spotlight UV. It wasn't like like a T5 or anything. So
Yeah,
it would hit this one part. She would put her tail out right there, soak up some, and then move it back into her little her cork bark. So
yeah,
yeah. So all right, we're coming up close to the end here. Uh, and you want to go ahead and hit them up with your wrap up?
Yeah. I was just looking up the genuses and all that. I got distracted. I want to see what the biggest genus. I mean, geckos are the biggest like genus of lizards there are. It says with over 1,500 species of geckos, they're the most speciose
Cyrtodactylus covers
lizards
what, like
there
a
is.
fourth of them?
I don't know. I'm trying to
yeah, right.
find it, but I got all lost in it. But I'll come up with the answer. I seen someone ask the question. I thought that they were. I thought that Cyrtodactylus was the most diverse like group of geckos.
Oh, someone did say. Jay said he's like they're actually the most diverse genus of gecko.
Yeah, they're supposed. That's what I read. But we were looking it up that
Yeah,
other time when you were getting into them. When we were looking them up all the names, there was
yeah.
like 330 something species of them, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, and then you have the geckoella too, which are technically some of them are
Some are
bentodes
cyrtodactyls.
too.
Yeah,
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 which may be switched at some point.
yeah.
Yeah, there's. I could just like I'm in the Wikipedia thing. I want to get lost in here. All right, so Chris, I usually ask everybody the same question, and I have this huge passion for the next generation for kids, man. I think that kids are what we should all live for, right? Like kids are the
Yeah.
next generation. They're going to, you know, pretty much represent and will carry on everything that we leave behind and instill in them. So if you could give one piece of advice to a child that came up to you at a show and they said, Kris, I want to do what you're doing someday, man. You're like a superhero to me. What advice would you give a child that wanted to grow up and do exactly what you do with these animals?
Um, don't rush into it. Take your time. Um, Start off small. You know what I mean? Start with the crest of the gecko. Work your way up to the big stuff, the little more challenging stuff, the stuff that's not as much known about them or aren't as hardy as something like a crested gecko. Not every species that we all work with is just mass reproducing and temperatures and things are humidity levels are have to be way more keyed in, um, so not diving into it. You start with something that you're not going to kill right away. Do
Yeah.
your research, talk to as many people that are working with that species as you can, and take it all with a grain of salt too, because everybody has their own techniques and tricks that's worked for them, and it may vary a little bit between each person. Um, I started out that way. I had to go to shows. I was talking to Julie Bergman when I lived in California, and like you know what I mean. Like those were the people I was talking to, the OGs, like because there wasn't the internet, and it was a lot of trial and error, and I got overwhelmed at times because I was so intrigued with all these different things. I wanted to get like one of everything, and like you end up losing a lot of animals, and so that's not beneficial to the animal, nor is it. You learn a little bit, but you can learn with starting with the basics. Um, I actually enjoy doing shows for that purpose. Like I love to get the parents that come up with their kid that like the parents say, hey, he really wants this lizard or that lizard. And then I start telling them my experiences and they're going, yeah, that's what he told me. Yeah, that's what he told me. Yeah, that's what he told me. And it reassures the parents that the kid actually did what they're supposed to be doing by looking into it and doing the research. Um, it's hard nowadays with the internet because everybody has an opinion and it could be all over the board. Um, but yeah, start something small. Start with like one species. Work with that species, or maybe one or two species for a little bit of time. Get to know the ins and outs of that specific species. You'd be surprised what you learn from that will apply to other species down the road. Whether it be even snakes or skinks or chameleons or frogs or turtles or whatever. Um, I've dabbled. I've dabbled with a little bit of everything over the years. Geckos just was the one that stuck, and that's another thing too is finding out what you're really, really passionate about. Um, and don't do it for the money. It's not, it's. I mean, unless you're flipping animals or one of the handful of big dogs that's in this industry right now, you're pretty much selling animals to pay for your food for that year. Like you're breaking even, and you're never getting paid for all the time and effort that you put into it. And so, yeah, you're never gonna get rich off of doing it, more than likely. So, I mean, that would be my you know thoughts on sharing somebody that wants to do that. Do it
Sounds
because you
fun.
love to
Sounds
do it.
fun.
Not because if you want to make money, do something else. you know.
Yeah, right.
So,
All right. So my question is, so what has been your biggest failures in this hobby, and what have you learned from those?
I think kind of what I just talked about. Like I dove in hard and was like wanted one of everything, and just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that,
That
and then
Noah's
you're not.
Ark type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, at one point when I was working at the reptile store, like I had monitors and blue tongue skinks and bearded dragons and turtles and frogs and Jackson's chameleons and leopard geckos and panther chameleons and leaf-tailed geckos, and I was all over the place, you know,
Yeah.
and just kind of more getting focused on the one thing. Like it's I think it's more rewarding, you know, to get, you know, that's why you see so many people. I think with geckos nowadays, because they don't mess with snakes, they don't mess with beardies, they kind of get zoom in on the geckos, and there's enough to offer in the gecko world for a diversity of things. Um, and it's easier to keep things when they're all similar. Like, you know, if
Yeah,
everything's at the same
definitely.
ambient temperature in your room,
Yeah.
it makes life easier. So I would say definitely I got in, you know, I was in my early 20s. So it was like I was excited, you know, and then you know, and then you get in relationships, your friends are wanting to hang out and party, and then you're overwhelmed with what you have, and then your care starts to decline, and then you're losing animals, which in turn you're losing money, and it's just not, uh, you know, test some things out, dabble in a little bit, but that's probably one of the biggest things is just going in head first and just dove straight too far into it right away instead of easing myself into it.
Yeah.
We've all
Oh,
been there, that's for sure.
right. Yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's
We all
easy to
have that
say, but it's
moment
hard
though.
to do.
Yeah. No, you see that? Oh, I want this. Oh, I want that. And then you got
Yeah,
certain
and you
friends
see,
that dabble in almost everything, like Richie. He makes it
yeah,
like Richie just hit
but
me
at
up this
least he's
weekend and was like,
focused
"Hey,
on geckos, though. You know,
yeah, 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 yeah."
I mean, he's not
No,
messing with snakes and chameleons and some of the other stuff where it does get your care gets way different. You know, it's at least somewhat generalized. But he's again, he's a big dog. He's doing a lot of shows. He's moving a lot of animals.
yeah,
You know, so he wants this to be a profitable business for him. So
He's
yeah,
opening a
you
gallery now too. He's actually taking his
yeah.
collection and open up to the public, which I think is brilliant. You know, but
Yeah, and you see a lot of influencers doing that now too. Like they're getting so much stuff on their property, you know, like Camp Cannon and stuff like that, you know, and then now they're getting to the point to where they want to start allowing the public to come
you
in.
got a dream over there, man. Camp Cannon is
Oh,
like I would, man,
yeah.
dude. Ugh. I want to meet
I
that
love watching his videos. He's a smart dude. You know, he's very informative. He talks about his animals. You know, it's not just like, hey, look what I got. Hey, look what I got. Like he really you know,
he
he
cares about
shares
his
his ups and
animals.
downs,
Yeah, yeah,
you
watching
know, and he really cares about his animals.
yeah, yeah,
for sure. For sure, he's one of the best.
And so we all learn from, you know, seeing that too, you know, because I would love to have a backyard like his backyard, man.
we all would. Oh man. So Chris, where can everybody find you, man?
um, I do pretty much the local Repticons in Charlotte. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Hoffmann Geckos. It's two F's, two N's, Hoffmann Geckos. So you can reach out to me. You know, I'm good with responding to people. I'm always willing to answer questions. Um, you know, I like to share my knowledge and experiences over this past, you know, 25 plus years of keeping
Awesome.
reptiles. Um, you know, I love to help people that are just, you know, getting into something that I have. Um,
Awesome.
and again, I'm in Charlotte. My next show will be the All American Reptile Expo, the Plant and Reptile Expo that's coming to Charlotte.
Okay.
So
What day
that'll
is
be a
that?
big uh middle of April, like the 14th,
Okay.
15th, I believe. Yeah. So they're a new promoter that's coming to town. They did one show last October,
Yeah.
and it's
Eric
cool. It's
vended it. It's a cool show. Carlos over at
yeah,
Limited Edition Geckos vended it. They got it. He liked it. He enjoyed it. That's cool.
yeah. They're great promoters. They're super hands on,
Sure. Yeah.
really good with responding to questions, and you know they walked around the whole show talking to all the vendors. You know, it's not like Repticon, you know, like, and not to bash Repticon, but you know they're the OGs kind of in the business, and with so many shows in the North Carolina area, it's a lot, you know. So
Yeah.
I pretty much stick to Charlotte. I can sleep in my own bed, you know, after the show,
Yeah,
so I don't
they're
have to pay
doing
for.
2 hour drives, right?
Yeah, and it cuts my, cuts my expenses. It cuts my costs down.
Yeah,
If I'm
yeah,
not paying for a
definitely.
hotel and things like that. Every once in a while, I'll do Asheville. I have a good friend that lives in Asheville, so I can sleep on his couch. But for the most part,
Nice.
I do Charlotte. So I'll be at like I said, the All American Plant and Reptile Expo in April. It's in centralized Charlotte, like so it's pretty accessible. Half plant vendors, half reptile vendors,
That's
which is
nice.
cool too. Yeah. So I mean, those things go hand in hand, right?
Brings
So
more
Yeah.
people in, man. You know,
it does.
it's good. You know, people
It
talk about
does.
big box stores all the time, pet stores. And I don't
Yeah.
want to get into it, but I always tell people those big pet shops probably bring more people into the reptile hobby than reptile shows do. It takes a
Yeah.
little bit going out of your way to go to a reptile show. You can own
Yeah.
cats, dogs, and goldfish and go to a pet store and wind up down the wrong aisle and be like, oh, wow, a leopard gecko, a snake, a
Yeah.
this. No, I would absolutely contribute them to bringing more people to the hobby than, again, like I said, a reptile show. So,
Yeah, and there's as many people that are into reptiles nowadays and that are doing it like you guys are, like I am, where we have a whole room dedicated to our animals. It's when I talk to people about it, people are blown away. They're like, "What? That's the whole thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a whole nother world you don't even know about." So
Yeah.
I try to encourage those people to come check it out. Bring your kids. It gets kids into animals. There's snakes and frogs and lizards and geckos, and there's so many things you can see. There's other things, people, you see kangaroos and coatimundi and hedgehogs and stuff like that too. So it's exotics, as opposed to just reptiles. So it's a passion, and it's definitely something that I enjoy. I enjoy doing the shows. I love talking to people. I love to share my knowledge with people and stuff. So um,
good.
I wish I could do more shows, but I just I'm such a small scale that doing any more than like 5 to 8 shows a year is just it's unfeasible unless I expand more than what I have now. And
Hey, you never know.
200
Might just
geckos is a
happen.
lot right now.
Yeah. All right, cool. Like I said, dude, thank you for coming on. Like I
Yeah, thank you
said,
guys. I appreciate you having me.
yeah, like I said, definitely want to get you back on for the Halamahara and the
Yeah.
Felsuma one. So I think we can
Yeah,
probably just do a
yeah,
dual show on that one right there.
yeah. We can
Knock
do that.
knock both out.
It'd be
So
awesome
Yeah,
to
I'll
talk
definitely
to
hit you up on that
Halmaharas
one.
because I haven't found anyone.
yeah.
Yeah,
And like I said, I've been working with them for a minute, so I know a little bit. There's only a couple of people that I found. So
Yeah, we've got a lot
yeah,
of requests for information about him, so we'd be honored to have you back and talk about him.
yeah, yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate that.
yeah. All right, everybody. You guys have a great night, morning, evening, whenever you listen to this. The episode will be uploaded on Spotify this Thursday, so make sure you check it out on there. Please like and subscribe. Tell all your friends about this show. We do want to grow this show. We want people to hear all this information that we're giving to everybody. So make sure you guys sharing this out. All right, everybody have a great night.
Joy.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Where's the balloons coming from? Oh shit, that's funny.